What's going on, family? It's your brother YK the Truth, and today I'm talking about this this docu-series that Samuel Jackson is doing. Samuel Jackson traces the history of the transatlantic slave trade. Okay? This is going to be a docu-series on slavery throughout the lens of sunken slave ships that never reach their destination. Ships that became mass graves of kidnapped Africans. And this is coming from the New York Times. And it's written by a young brother by the name of John Eligon. Okay? And so Samuel Jackson is doing this docuseries. You know, last night I was watching on Prime I Am Not Your Negro by James Baldwin. And Samuel Jackson, he was actually, the narrator of that documentary. So Samuel Jackson is, very in tune with his history, and he's into things like this. A lot of celebrities, they get money and they forget about their roots, but he's taken his opportunity to bring us closer to where we come from. Okay? So the series opens with Mr. Jackson traveling to Gabon in Central Africa, where he meets people of the Benga tribe, which he traced his ancestry through a DNA test. Okay? He said, I spoke with Mr. Jackson and his wife, an executive producer of the series, about their journey and also why this story feels urgent and relevant in this critical moment. Okay? So why is it important for Samuel Jackson, to make this docuseries about the transatlantic slave trade? Why is this important? So the question was, why did you want to tell the story of the transatlantic slave trade? And this is Miss Richardson Jackson. Now this is what she said. She said that I think that most African Americans, if we could do it, we would at least try to trace the ancestry of our immigration here. This is something that sort of lives in our spirit. Tracing their roots is something that lives within them. This is something that they want to know, because without history of without knowing where you from, without knowing your origin, how could you know yourself? You know what I'm saying? You got people who believe that they are from America. They think that we've been here forever. They think that we was already here. So with that being said, it's like saying that what our ancestors endured on those slave ships never happened. And I believe that that's treason. For their pain and the suffering, for you to just deny it, just to hold on to America, is sickening to me. So let's get it. This is Mr. Jackson. He said, we felt like it was a very different story. We heard stories of ships coming over, where they were going, but we never talked about the ships that did not make it, and what the consequences of that was, or even what the probability of that was for the people that sponsored those ships. Even though people didn't make it and they didn't get to use their bodies for service too, they still profit. They still profit. Here's another question. What do you think that adds to the narrative that we know about the transatlantic slave trade and enslavement? Okay? Now this is Mr. Jackson. He said, the business of our bodies carried on. We were viewed as cargo at that particular point before we got here, and not human beings. We were less than human. Same as tossing over some boxes or some horses or anything else that was on board. Question: how does this coming out now fit into this larger discussion we're having with racial justice? Okay. Now this is what Miss Richardson Jackson had to say. She said, especially with what's going on, it raises the question and it allows us to actually see, look, this happened and we should be discussing that it happened. Thank you. This is an American story. It happened and it can't be swept under the rug. Okay? The Jews, the Holocaust, they have museums. They speak about it. They have days for it. But us, we are taught to forget about it. I was just speaking with my sister about Africa and about the things we've been through, and she was like, let's change the topic because it's making me sad. But we have to not forget, and we have to also keep their names and their legacy alive. Speak about it. Talk about it. Talk about it with your kids. Educate them about the transatlantic slave trade, and also educate them on the fact that we had a civilization before the white man even came in with this slave trade and kidnapping Africans and bringing them to America. Before all of that, we had a civilization. But let's not forget the trauma, the murder. Don't forget it. Okay? Don't look at it as a badge of shame. You feel what I'm saying? Don't look at it as if it's making you weak. It's making you look less than. Look at it as we can overcome anything. If our ancestors endured all that suffering and all that pain, we can endure anything. Just look at what we still going through today. So for the indigenous people, so-called indigenous people, who be like, I don't want to be no African. Look at them. They was slaves and they was this and they was that. Look at him as a resilient person who didn't give up easily. So let's keep going back to the article. Question. Sam, I know you got to get acquainted with the Benga people in Gabon. What was that experience like for you? First of all, it's Mr. Jackson. To find out that I was a part of a tribe that was still in existence was a revelation. And then to get there and to actually go into the part of the country where they live, they're actually a beach tribe. They beach. Mrs. Richardson Jackson. This is what she said. She said, which I think has a lot to do with, in your DNA, your love of the sea. Samuel Jackson loves the sea. This is what his wife claims. And he comes to find out that he is actually from a beach tribe. It's in his genetic makeup. Mr. Jackson, it was a very moving kind of thing to do, to be in a group of people that welcomed me in a way that made me feel like I was coming home to a particular place that's familiar, to look around at the faces and see a familiar look, like my uncles, my cousins, to have people that I'm connected to in a way that's genetic, that helps me understand things about who I am or how I make specific kinds of decisions, or what it means in terms of my longevity, my health, the things that I'm attracted to. Miss Richardson Jackson. It's validation, total validation of a place in a time of origin. Question: slavery is always a hard topic. Why is it important for people to watch this? Why is it important to learn about, the ships that never made it here, the kinds of things that was left in the ocean? Why is that important? Mr. Jackson, we hope that the information and the knowledge give a greater understanding of who we are, and sometimes why we protest and why things seem like they are the same. The same reason that people don't allow people to forget about the Holocaust, that if you let things go and start to forget that they happened, and they find a way to repeat themselves. That's deep right there. Right? Because if we just forget that it happened, we can potentially allow it to happen again. We have to be able to recognize, okay, this is where this is going. Because don't think that history can't repeat itself. Just look at how many brothers is gunned down and murdered. We still have this harsh treatment. All right? Now, this is what Miss Richardson Jackson had to say. She said, I think that until we deal with it and allow that it occurred and talk about it, we can't hope to heal it in a vacuum. Black people trying to heal it for themselves. We always have tried to heal it for ourselves and sort of picked it up and keep going. But there's something about everybody being involved in it to try to pick up that baggage and destroy it, so we can do it as a people. We can do it collectively. And I feel that with Black History Month, we can actually go back further than just our history in America. We can actually go back to, the slave voyages and everything. Then you got certain type of people, like, certain type of black people, they are ashamed to be from Africa. You know what I'm saying? They feel that just because they was born here, this is their home. They don't understand that your very genetic makeup comes from that continent, that area of the world. Your broad nose, your nappy hair, the melanin in your skin. You understand what I'm saying? These are things that help you survive. So to say you're from anywhere else but Africa, and it amazes me how you would be ashamed to come from a place like Africa, where they got diamonds and gold and minerals and resources and so many varieties of animals your head would spin. Yes, there's a lot of wars, there was a lot of stuff going on, and we all know the history and the reason behind that, with colonization, destroy and conquer, divide and conquer. We all know the history behind that. But Africa is a beautiful place that I plan on going back to. I plan on going back to with my family, with my kids, and living where we belong. I believe we all should go back home. And this is what's going to be my mission, is to help us get out of this place, because America don't love us here. They don't. Just look at the way we treat it every day. But I'm not going to keep going. So check out the docuseries. It's called Enslaved by Samuel L. Jackson. He's going to be showing you the slave trade and, the unsunken ships and things of that nature. But you know what? I'm not going yet. Scratch that. Excuse me, because I got a lot of stuff that's still on my mind that I want to talk about. You know, there's some people that's saying that, okay, how do we know the slave trade? How do we know the slave trade was real? Now, you can actually go, okay? You can actually go to slave voyages. All right? And there's a database. And don't listen to Dane Calloway telling you, well, how do we know if there was even Africans, and how do we know? Because they tell you, they show you, they have the names, okay? They have the names of the Africans, and I'm going to show you. I'm going to show y'all this, okay? I'm going to record it, and I'm going to show you. Like, they actually have over 60,000 names, and this was just based on a particular time in Atlantic in a slave trade, and they have it. So you go to that database, and you can see all the numbers. We have all the records. We have everything. So for you to sit there and deny that the slave trade actually happened, it must be something wrong with you mentally. You have the slave voyages. You got slave narratives. We even got so much evidence. We got languages and that's passed down. Come on, man. When do you just give it up and say, you know what? It is what it is. This is what I am. Right? You can't continue, because I'm doing another book. And the book is I'm doing another documentary. And it's going to be called, we're closing a book, Aboriginals. We're going to close that book. That book where you can go, the white man lied to us, right? The white man lied to us. He stole our history. Remember that? But then you can go to that same white man and say that he's telling you the truth about what you look like. Oh, he said they was brown, and he said they was brown skinned when they got here, right? But we're going to close that book. You know why we're going to close that book? Because we know now that just because a person is brown don't mean they the same genetically. Okay? Not only that, the people that came here, they wasn't scientists. They weren't anthropologists. They didn't know. They thought that everybody that was brown had to be a Negro. Not only that, the term Negro was synonymous with slave. A slave. Do you follow me? So for you to sit here and deny Africa, for what? For America? Listen, man, it's going to be long for y'all. It's going to be a long day. It's your brother YK, The Truth, and I'm out. Peace, man.